We are on Daf Yud Amud Bet in Chullin. So we mentioned a few weeks ago already the idea of Eid Echad Neman Bisurin, that we trust one aid when it comes to Isser. What is the makor for that idea? From where do we know that an Eid Echad is Neman Bisurin? So the Gemara assumes that it's obvious. The question is, where do they get it from? So this sugya, while it is mentioned here, it's only mentioned here tangentially. And this is a major Shas topic. It's mentioned in Sanhedrin. It's mentioned in Kiddushin. It's mentioned in another sugya, which I can't recall. And what's its source? So there's a machlokes over where does it come from? There's a Rashi actually mentions. You know what Rashi mentions? That it's a svara. Why is it a svara? Because how could you eat at anyone's house if Eid Echad is not Neman B'Isurin? Because you go to someone's house to bring you food, and you're like, how do I know if it's kosher? Right? So it's almost like a socialization which justifies Eid Echad B'Isurin. It's a svarahu, says Rashi. Because if someone brings you food, how can you eat their food? Oh, wait. I need edus of Shnei Edim. No, you don't. Rashi elsewhere says the makor is v'zavachta. If you take a look at the Rashi here. The Rashi in Chullin doesn't quote the svara. That's he quotes it elsewhere. Rashi erecha misu. Let's read together. You want to read? Go ahead. Okay, so what's the context? Every individual has nemanus in the Torah. What's it based on? So, by the way, this is a splice of psukim. These are spliced psukim here that Rashi's quoting. One is v'zavachta mibkorcha mitzoncha, that you'll take a zevach, a shchita of either one, basically an animal, and the shachat et ben abakar. Meaning that when you bring your animal to the Kohen, the Kohen says, here, I shechted your animal. How do you trust the Kohen? Maybe the Kohen needs an aid with him. Answer is no. And you could eat. So if the Kohen shows up and says, I shechted your korban, you can eat it. Now why? Because there's only Lashon Yachid. The fact that it says the shachat ben abakar lashon yachid. We don't see anywhere in Chumash that requires another Kohen, or by the way, it could be in Hedjot, to stand next to the Kohen, to testify this with them properly. The Kohen then gives you the korban to eat, right? And what happens? You can eat it. So he says that's Rashi holds is the makar for Eid Echad Neman B'Isurin, that your regular korban that you bring, the Kohen shechs it and you can eat it. Okay. Continue reading. V'lo. Okay. Where's the only scenario that you need two edim for? So this is very important. You only need two edim for mammon, mitas beitstein, and arayos. Meaning. You translate? Yes. What do you need two edim for? One, onesh mammon. If I want to give you and say, we're doing a mini topic, we're waiting for more guys to come, on the makor, the source for Eid Echad Neman B'Isurin. What's the source for it? So, Rashi, we said this outside, actually somewhere says it's the svara. How else could you eat in someone's house? Must be that we trust one person. One person brings you kosher food, you eat it. You don't say to them, I need someone, can you show me the wrapping that it came from the COR? Can you please, I want to see, no, we trust their food when someone brings it to you. Eid Echad Neman B'Isurin. For Isser, you only need one witness is sufficient. If I say it's kosher, now, if that one witness doesn't have Nemanis, you don't trust them. If a person is Machal Shabbos, how could you trust their kashrus? That really is an issue, right? Now, they have to have other reasons why we can trust them. Okay, that's a conversation for another time. Right, Bali Tshuva deal with this topic a lot. Okay, it's an important topic, but not for now. So if one person comes over to you and says, trust me, this is kosher food. Why is this kosher food? That's kosher food. I bought it at Sobeys. It's kosher. We eat it. Oh, we don't need two edim. We don't need to see the wrapping. Eid Echad Neman B'Isurin. The second source that we just came across was right here. Rashi says, what's the second source for Eid Echad Neman Bisurin is V'shachat, that we trust the Kohen when he shechs the Korban, we trust him. That we don't see anywhere that you require a second person to stand there. And Rashi says, when do you need Shnei Eidim? Only in the case of Mammon, meaning a guy is chayav a knas, or tashlumi kefel, or tashlumi arba v'chamisha, or any way, or the guy has to pay nezek, or Shnei Eidim. You need 2 Eidim in order to have a person pay money. And second thing is, by the way, you get forced a guy to take a shvuah, and then if he's not willing to swear, he could pay money. But to force the guy to extract money, you need Shnei Eidim. That's 1. 2, you'll also need it 4. So the Rashi says here, mitas based in. We're not going to kill anybody unless we have Shnei Eidim. And 3, arayos. Right? Is there any, basically, what do we do by, you're aware of this, I hope, right? The Eidei Kedushin, please come forward. Eidei Kedushin, need 2 Eidim. So everything else, 1 Eid is sufficient. So for Isser and Heter, for kosher food, not kosher food, those things, 1 Eid is sufficient. Yeah?
Sorry, what's arayos?
Arayos is in incestuous relationships. How when a person is married, how a person is not married. So, this is mine, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're waiting for only one other person, so we're going to now go to today's sugya. Okay, that was just an introduction of the source of Eid Echad.
Things, though, that like if you have one witness, you could really negatively affect someone. If someone lies about kosher, it's between you and God, and them,
so
them and God.
No one is arguing that. Listen.
To see why.
If I were to ask the average person, how many testimony of one person, in theory, should be sufficient for anything. It's the chiddush of the Torah to say we need 2 for Mammon, for Misa, and Arayos.
There's the famous Rambam talks about why you need 2 witnesses. This is not because it doesn't have anything to do with like the truth. It's just the Torah gave this special power.
It appears that the fact that Torah says 2 witnesses is why we need 2 witnesses, which is why the default is actually 1 witness, which is why Eid Echad Neman Bisurin. So Rashi, we just did a mini, like a 10-minute sugya, just talk about Eid Echad Neman Bisurin. How do we know that 1 Eid is Neman? We see different sources for it. One is the Svara.
Those were all cases involving either money or death.
And money and death, you need 2. But that's why do we say that? Because the Torah says. Okay, that's today's topic.
You have to be really sure in those cases.
Again, but you're right. I want to be really sure my food's kosher too.
But if someone lies to you and says the food's kosher and it's not, it's more on them than it's on you.
Well, that's not true. I'm eating not kosher food. But if I eat pig, it's not okay.
No, it's b'shogeg.
What? Again, it might be b'shogeg, but it's still not good to do.
Obviously, but the sin's on them, not on you. Because
they
this is deceived you.
Do I have to do tshuva for shogeg?
No way.
But it's not the same.
Agreed. You're right. I'm getting malchus. Right. Could be. Yom Kavis mechaper. I bring korban. Right.
Right. That's a minor.
Right.
It's an inconvenience.
Yeah. I mean. Okay. Gentlemen, let's start today's real sugya. And again, I put real in quotation marks. We're going to begin with. Take a look at Daf Yud Amud Beis. We're starting with Minahali Milsa, Ta'amur Rabbanan, Uki Milsa, Achazakeh. I don't even know where to go.
It's the middle of the page.
It's literally the middle of the page.
Via the Rashi Lokar of Chisda.
Right across the Rashi Lokar of Chisda. There's actually a period there. So we concluded a few weeks ago with we need to show the sakin, not because we have to, but rather we must show our sakin because of kvodo shel zakin, kvodo shel chacham. That's what we ended with last time. I want to start. This sugya is one of these fascinating sugyas that really establishes something quite fascinating that's worthwhile going through it. Today's going to be Gemara Rashi Day. Maybe even a Tosfos or 2, although I doubt it. Mina ha milsa d'amor rabban ukme milsa chazakeh. We are dealing with, what's the source for chazakah? How do we know that chazakah exists? That's the Gemara's question. The language is fascinating. It's ukme. How do we know that how do we know that we're supposed to establish chazakah? Now, why are we dealing with this topic here? The reason is because here we're talking about two different chazakas that are clashing with each other. Just to go back.
An animal's cheskat puzzle.
It's what this animal, remember, is becheskas isra accent that we saw weeks ago of ever minachar or zavuach. And if we smash bones, if I take a knife and I smash bones after shchita, and that dentons my knife, and I've checked my knife beforehand, now my chazaka of my knife is being questioned because I smashed bones with it. So do I establish the chazaka that my knife was checked and it was good? Now I smashed bones. That's a pretty good reason why I'm questioning my chazaka that my knife was clean. And that's going against the chazaka of Ever Minach. So that's why perhaps here the Gemara asks this question. It's interesting. It asks the question at the end of the sugya, not the beginning of the sugya. Why? Because only at the end of the sugya there's this appreciation of the chazakas that are potentially clashing. Lahatur and for Isser. And now the Gemara is saying, okay, now that we've had these chazakas battling, what's a source? So here you go. The source, gentlemen, is going to come from something very obscure and requires a bit of information. Before we actually see the source, give me 2 minutes of introduction. Negayim. We know that there's negayim in different places. There's negayim that you could have in your clothing, negayim found on the person, and negayim found in a house. Negayim found in a house are only in Eretz Yisrael. Ein negay batim chutz la'aretz. The size of a nega in a house of tzara'at, the size of this, I'll use the English term, but that's a terrible translation, leprosy, even though it's not, it's a biblical leprosy, it's not medieval leprosy, but we'll use that term just because it's the term that's used. This medieval leprosy, the size is a gris. Okay? Which is basically an inch by an inch, slightly less than inch by an inch square. An inch is 2.54 centimeters. So, that's the amount of tzarat that's needed. In order for a house or a person or clothing to be deemed tuma, to be metame, it needs to be established by, anyone know? Not a doctor, but a Kohen. If you are a massive Talmud Chacham, you're part of the Sanhedrin, for you it's a given, you know everything, it's clear that you have the simanim of Tuma, but you're an Israelite, you are in the status of Tahor, not Vadai Tahor. Until a Kohen says, Tuma Yikra, you are Tahor. You're clothed in your house. Which is why, if you're worried that your house is Metame, you tell the Kohen, you make an appointment, the Kohen's coming over at 10 a.m., what are you supposed to do before 10 a.m.?
Move everything out of the house.
Very good. Ufinu et habayit. You remove everything. Because what happens if the Kohen shows up and says it's Tameh? Everything in the house is Tameh. So therefore the Torah says Ufinu et habayit. What's the famous medrash? Everyone knows the medrash?
If you meet him outside of the house, are you good?
What was that? If you
meet him outside of the house, are you good?
Yes, you're still tahor. Yeah. So you remove all your kids. It's not like today where we have 30 chairs and 27 tables and we have 17 rooms and we have 3 floors. How big was the house 2,000 years ago? Right, you had 2 rooms. Right, you're taking out everyone was the Chavetz Chaim. Remember the Chavetz Chaim? Only have a chair, right, for the case of Mashiach. So it wasn't like the biggest deal. Today, imagine everything at your house. Anybody moved the past couple years? I moved 2 years ago. Right, it's like they say moving is one of the most stressful things that exists in life. God forbid, a death of a child, a death of a family member is number 1. I think number 2 is the most stressful thing is moving, right? Number 3 is like a new job. So it's very stressful. But in those days, you're fitting with the bite. What's the video? Don't get me wrong, it's still a schlep. But so until a Kohen says it's tameh, it's tahor, 100% tahor, not vadai tahor. Even though the nega is the size of the smart board over there, it doesn't matter. It's still tahor. So, where does the Kohen declare that it's tameh? Outside. Why?
Because he doesn't want to come.
Because if the Kohen declares he's tameh inside the house, guess what? The Kohen's made himself tameh and he violates potentially an issue deraisa.
How would they go around it? If it's clearly,
is that crazy?
It's clearly tameh and he knows it's tameh. He's inside the house. Shouldn't that
Like, how can him going outside not make?
So the Bavli Musar have a great line. The Bavli Musar say we don't look for tuma, right? We try to do whatever we can not to make a house tameh or a person tameh.
Isn't it clearly tameh then?
Not tameh till it's...
How can he,
Not tameh, it's tameh.
how can he render it tameh if he's outside the house and he's not inside the house where it's tameh? Meaning, like, it might have changed.
You know the Gemara? It's not the Gemara's question. Okay, good, beautiful, unbelievable.
This is what's trying to compare the Abraham and the Chai thing?
No, this is not even. This is like a new. This is the source of the sugya of chazaka. Has nothing to do with anything.
Used for that.
It will be used for it, right? But it's a totally different. Okay, let's take a look. So those are three things that we have to realize. There's tumas negayim has to be the size of a gris. If it's less than that, it's nothing. That's one. That's two. Has to be done by the kohen. That's it. There's different levels of tumah. You have what's called a musgar and a muchlat. If a house is a musgar, means sagur, and he sagarti at the delet, I've declared it's no good, I wait a week, and then I evaluate the nega. The nega's gone down, it's okay. If it's no good, then it's a muchlat, and that's much more serious in terms of how with the house. So let's take a look at the Gemara. And I need to watch the clock very carefully. Here we go. Okay. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachman, Amar Rav Yochanan. Amar Kara. Here's a source. I told you, very obscure. V'yatza hakohen min habayit, el petach habayit, v'hizgir et habayit, shivat yamim. So the Kohen leaves this house. Now, again, not only does he leave the house, but it's el petach. He must leave the threshold of the house. Right? So he has to be outside, because if he's inside, he's going to nail himself. V'hizgir et habayit. So let's use the standard term for what v'hizgir means. What's v'hizgir? Closes it. For how long? Shivat yamim. Ask the Gemara. V'dilma adenafik. V'atar batzar le'shiura. Maybe by the time the guy walked out, batzar shiura. What's batzar shiura? It shrunk. I'm the Kohen. Let's use this room as an example. I see on that wall, oh my goodness, too much, way more. It's a fist by a fist. Forget an inch by an inch. It's a huge... Sorry, you're toast. I walk out, because remember, most houses were just one big room, right? Maybe two rooms. That was it, right? I walk out of the house, and what do? I say, no good, tameh yikra. Maybe by the time I walked from there to the door, what happened to the nega? It shrunk. Now, the Gemara says, how is this a source for chazaka? The Shmuel...
You assume that what was up until this point.
Shmuel says, I don't understand. I looked at the wall, and what do I see? I see a nega. I'm now walking outside, how long? 10 seconds. 10 minutes. Maybe the guy's a schmoozer. I don't know, right? Maybe. Can I be 100% certain the nega didn't shrink?
No.
I can't be certain. If I can't be certain, chazaka. What's the chazaka? It was tameh 10 seconds ago. It was tameh 10 minutes ago. When I leave, it's still tameh ukmea chazaka.
It's like a different chazaka than let's say like chesed batim.
Yes.
They're using a chazaka to change halachic status or something. Here, it's just like whatever is continues.
Okay, very good. Not all chazakas are the same. The chazaka, by the way, with our knife and with our animal, is that same chazaka. It's this chazaka. Yeah. Yes. It's called the chazaka of establishing a principle, and it's established unless, if I have a reyusa, remember in our knife we have reyusa because we see a dent, or maybe there's reyusa in our animal, remember our zayv, remember I see punctured something in there, unless I have a reyusa, I'm assuming the chazaka is established. So, I have no reason why I should assume, there's been a delay, so there's a 10-second delay, there's a 10-minute delay. That's not reason enough for me to assume that my tuma nega was diminished. Tame yikra.
If he's inside the house and he sees that it's tameh with his own eyes, like just because he doesn't denounce the tameh until he leaves the house, why should that not make him tameh? It's in a tameh house. He knows in his mind it's tameh.
Wait, you're saying why isn't the Kohen tameh?
Yeah.
That's this is Yersa Kasev. You're right, because rationally you couldn't say that.
He's in the house. If he has the ability to render it tameh, then it should
by the way, I assume this was understood, but I should explain. Just like a dead body is metame in a house, and there's tuma ohel, there's tuma by tsaras too, right? I wasn't sure people realize that. There's tuma ohel by two things. Tamei meis, you're a kohen. You got to know this, right? There's tuma. Right? That everyone knows the kohen thing in a house, dead body.
Wait,
But tsaras also is tamei ba'ohel.
Can you say
That's just not as popular. That's why.
Can you say the same thing with a met? If a Cohen goes into the house,
No.
sees that he's dead, walks out of the house, okay, he's dead.
No, it doesn't work right.
It's not Tamei?
Okay. The Torah says until HaKohen gives it a prescription.
The tumah of the Tamei mate's not waiting for the Kohen doesn't make it Tamei. By Tzarat, it's not Tamei until the Kohen declares it such.
Right.
Even if a bunch of Tzarat experts come in, it's not.
Right. That's right. You need a Kohen. It's Kohen specific. By the way, as a dead body, I don't need a Kohen. I need a doctor. Doctor says the guy's dead. The guy's dead. There's tumah.
You need a doctor to tell him he's dead.
It's not a time of death. Only a doctor can declare time of death.
Yeah, you can tell someone's not breathing.
A nurse can do time of death? I don't think it's on the floor. Maybe. I don't know where it's.
Maybe not in the time of the Gemara. Nurses didn't have that much power.
Right.
You can tell if someone's not breathing.
What was that?
You can tell if someone's not breathing.
Okay.
I'd be sleeping.
I'm not sure.
Feel his pulse.
Be unconscious for 3 minutes.
You'd still have a pulse. Yeah, if you don't have a pulse for like how long, you're dead. Like a minute tops.
I think, by the way, a Tamei Meis is actually even worse than that. Because if it's a Safek Tamei Meis, then you're Tumah Mesafek. There's no Tumah Mesafek. I mean, there is Tumah Mesafek by Metzora. But what I'm trying to say is that it's not that you were in that house, the Kohen is a Safek Tamei. He is zero. Right? You took the kid. The house has tsaras as big as a wall. Nothing is Tamei yet until the Kohen comes. It's a joke. Remove everything and they're tahor.
You have a problem. If the Kohen can't is the only one that can diagnose Tumah, how can he ever enter the house unless he can leave the house without becoming Tumah?
Right? Okay.
You would never be able to diagnose it if it was
right. So we don't say like get the guy binoculars, have him give him X-ray vision. No.
So if you don't bring a Cohen, then your house is never coming. So you might as well just not bring the Cohen.
Okay, so that's a great question. So so that's the thing. You're obligated to bring a Cohen.
Theoretically, like a Kohen could sleep in the house overnight.
Yeah, Cohen could right. He has to do it that day. What you're going to see crazier in
Saras in his own house. He can literally just walk outside and be like, my house is Tamei.
Yeah.
Plus, you want to get the money hidden from the MORE.
Yeah.
In the
walls,
right? That's right. By the way, that's what they say. That's why they say Tzara'at. The Balei Musar say the idea of Lashon Hara. So if you remove everything from your house, they say, why do you get Tzara'at in your house? Because you didn't share your... So tzarat on your body, Chazal says because Lashon Hara. But tzarat in your house because you didn't share things with people. So you really had an extra chair. All of a sudden, it's out on the front lawn. Hey, you say you didn't have a chair. I see a chair right there on your front lawn. Ufinu et habayit, right? So yeah, that's nice, right? That's where Chazal get it from. Because all of a sudden, all your kalim are going to be on your front lawn because you want to come tamei. So it's like right, and now the guy's like. Didn't you just say you didn't have an extra chair? What's that doing on your front lawn?
Just bought one.
That's just bought one. So.
Deal.
Bought it used.
Okay.
Good deal.
So again, the Gemara says, Ukme, what's the chazaka? The chazaka is that the delay that takes place when the Kohen walks out, we don't assume there's a change of status. The Kohen declared it's Tamei, even though we know that Tumah changes in size on a regular basis, because at some point in time the Tumah will disappear. A day, a week, a month, maybe it minimize. And by the way, if it just hit the shear, right, so maybe not 10 seconds, it could have diminished even more. No, we have a chazaka, it's no good. We declare the house a musgar. The house has a status of a musgar for a week, and then you go back and reevaluate it. Okay, let's continue the Gemara. Okay. So the Gemara then, let's go back, repeat those words again. Maybe the shear was diminished when he walked outside. No, we don't. Why not? We establish a chazaka. What's a chazaka? That the shear of Tumah remained the same. All of a sudden, Matkifla Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, in the base medrash that day, Rav Acha Bar Yaakov jumps up and says, "What are you talking about? I'm going to attack this assumption. The assumption of, this is a source for chazaka? No way! Maybe, listen to this. V'dilma kegon sheyatza derech acharav. Tekachazile. Kinafik. When the guy left, he you walk out of shul, you walk out with your back, right?
It's assuming the whole house is perfectly straight and you can see everything. There's
so maybe he's standing over there, he's walking, he's looking at the wall, he's looking at the tzara, he walks out of the door, and the whole time he's watching the tumah. Remember, in the modern era, we're are you kidding me? But you have to remember, there's only one room.
No, even so, he's not attacking that this is the case every time the Kohen checks for tzara. He's saying you can't prove a chazaka from here.
Very good.
Because the Kohen still could have seen it when he declared it.
Exactly. I mean, you're going to tell me this is the proof. For all you know, the guy was walking backwards. Don't tell me this is the proof. Okay, good. Very good. Excellent. Ezra. Continues the Gemara. Forget, this is not a proof. Maybe he walked backwards. Maybe the tumah was in eye vision the whole time. No, I'm going to use two. This is a very strange response. Shtei tshuvot. But I'm going to use two answers. Right? One, chada, the yitzia derech acharav lo shema yitzia. What's the pasuk? The pasuk in the Torah says v'yatza. What's the text here? The Torah says v'yatza kohen min habayit. That's a direct quote from the Chumash. V'yatza. The word v'yatza means to exit. Says Abaye, I'm going to prove to you that Yitzia, derech acharav, is not Yitzia. The Torah says Yitzia, he turned around and walked out. He didn't do walking out of shul. Ve'od, achrei adelet, ma'ika lememar. What are you going to tell me? It's behind the door. How's the guy going to see it? That's Abaye's two questions.
A series of mirrors.
What?
Yeah.
Mirrors.
Right?
Knock the door down.
Meaning, Abaye is making an assumption here. What's Abaye's assumption?
The guy can.
So again, the guy.
What Rav Acha responded.
How's he attacking Rav Acha Bar Yaakov? The first one's easy. Yitzia is not walking out backwards. Second one is
more so.
Shem is behind the door. What's he? He's saying.
Not every time it's possible for the Kohen to see it, so it must be based on chazaka. Because there are situations where there's no way the Kohen can see it after he leaves.
Yet the Torah says that. Yet there's the Yitzia.
Yeah.
Good. Meaning, he's saying, I don't understand. No. When the guy walks out of the house, he turns around, he turns his back on it, and he can make a declaration of Tumah. Maybe it's, but doesn't matter. He always does it this way. Now listen to this. The Gemara says, not so simple. Maybe, you know what he did? Maybe, this is a great answer. Do you know what's very possible? Do you know what the Kohen might have done? So here I saw that maybe what did the Kohen do? He opened up all the windows in the house, so he was able to see the entire time. Maybe when the Kohen walked out, what did he do? He had all the windows open. So what did he do? He looked out through the windows, he was able to see the Tumah. Since he was able to see the Tumah, his eyes were on it the whole time. Don't tell me this is a proof of Chazaka. Because why? If it's a proof of Chazaka, he would turn his back on, his student status was the same. Maybe what happened? That he was watching, he kept his eye on it the whole time. Right? As he walked out, he looked through the window. Before he declared Tumah, he looked through the window and said, oh yeah, I'm just verifying 10 seconds later, 10 minutes later that the shear is the same. I can see through the window. Tameh. So don't tell me that's based on Chazaka. What's it based on? I see it through the window. Not a proof. Gemara continues.
That was more of like a if you assume.
Right, v'chi tema, if you're going to make an assumption that maybe patach be'kavate, what's the problem? V'hatanya, it can't be. Why not? Thank you. The Gemara says that what? In v'atanan, beit afel in potchim bo cholonot rotet nego. Okay, this is... We don't. What happens if I walk into a house? I'm a Kohen. I walk into a house. Or BJ walks into a house, and it's pretty dark outside. It's a Beit Afel. It's quite dark, and I can't really see the Tuma so well. Do I light a match? Do I take up my iPhone? The what's it called? The flashlight? No.
You don't look for Tuma?
You don't look for Tuma. If you can't see it, you can't declare it. So, you might have thought that the guy could maybe look into the house. No, he can't look into the house. Do you know why he can't look into the house? Because in the Beit Afel, you're not allowed to look in. And since you're not allowed to look in, don't tell me, V'chi Tema, if you want to tell me that maybe the guy walked outside and looked through the window. No, he can't look through the window to look at the Tumah. Do you know why he can't? Because we don't look for Tumah. We don't go out of our way to find the Tumah. Therefore, the Yitzia was a proper Yitzia. The guy declared Tumah outside based on Chazaka. Okay. Then it comes along the Gemara and says, okay, Amale Rava, the Kamart Yitzia Derech Achrav Lo Shema Yitzia. Wait a second. You want to tell me walking out of a shul backwards is not considered a Yitzia? Based on Vayatza HaKohen? Not true. Why? Shema Yitzia Kohen Gadol B'Yom Kippurim Yochiach. Dichtiv Bei Yitzia. How does a Kohen Gadol leave the Kodesh Kodashim? He has to back out. Why? Isn't your back on the Kruvim? You have to back out. And what does it say on Yom Kippur? What's Yitzia? That the Kohen Gadol leaves the Kodesh Kodashim. And he leaves backing out. So now you want to tell me that Yitzia means that you proper exiting? Not true. We see that Yitzia can mean backing, walking out backwards. That's the way to phrase it. Walking out backwards, right? I think so. So you want to bring a proof that's not Derech Yitzia. We see from a Kohen, Yom Kippurim, it is Yitzia. That V'tanan Yatza Balo Derech Knisato. Okay, Balo Derech Knisato. And that's the same way he were to enter. What is that referring to? Meaning, when do we assume that we don't look for a nega? Okay. Remember I told you don't look for a nega? You don't look for a nega? So therefore, in a beit, you don't look around for it. So, when is that the case? Only when you don't.
We don't know if there's a nega or not, or you haven't established it.
Oh, I haven't established. The Kohen, is there a nega here? I can't see it. The size, it's too dark. Don't put your flashlight. Don't open a window. You can't make a declaration. That's when we have no chazaka. That's no good.
You can't use the light to
establish
the nega. But once you've established the nega, you can use the light as help.
So then they says. So you mean to tell me that you? So again, the havmina was two answers. Derech Yitzia is only proper Yitzia. Not true. I have Yom Kippur. Two, you want to tell me maybe you look through the chalonot? No, you don't look through chalonot because you don't look for a nega. Not true. When is that only the case of? When you don't establish. Once you've established, once a Kohen sees the nega, if he wants to, shall we say, double check, and he's standing outside, why can't he turn on a flashlight? Or why can't he look through the window? He'd be allowed to do that. It's the only time we don't do it in the Beit Afel, we haven't established there's a nega. Once you've established there's a nega, then you might be permitted to investigate properly. Don't investigate to make it tameh. But once you have a chazaka that it's no good because he saw it with his own eyes, then maybe afterwards you can go see derech halonot. So therefore, the two answers that were given have now been dismissed. So Rav Yaakov Bar Yaakov wants to dismiss the words of Shmuel. So now we're still. So then, what's our source for chazaka? Tane Deloku Rav Yaakov Bar Yaakov. No, trying again to dismiss it. How? We're the fifth Fifth line. V'yatza hakohen min habayit. Yacho yelech latoch beito v'yazgir. Talmud lomar el petach habayit. I petach habayit yacho lamot tachat hamashka v'yazgir. Talmud lomar min habayit. Ad sheyatza min habayit kulo. Maybe, what did the Kohen do? Maybe the Kohen, while he was still in the house, declared that it was Tameh. So, you're right, there's a problem that we discussed before. What's the problem if a Kohen establishes that it's two Moabites in the house? He's okay, so put that aside for now. Maybe he's in the house. No, can't be. What is it, Talmud Lomar? V'yatza min habayit. Meaning, if he's in the house, then there's no chazaka. Why? Because, that maybe it's not because of established chazaka, because you can still see it. So when the Kohen is standing in the house, no, because it says v'yatza min habayit. The Torah says he leaves the house and says it's no good. Okay, so don't tell me that he's in the house. He's left the house, and maybe he went home. No, where did he do this? Just past the threshold. He just did it outside. Here we go. Omed bitzar hamashkov umazgir. And where, therefore, did he establish that it was Tameh? He literally just left the house and closed the door and said Tameh. If he closed the door and did it Tameh, we see there's a chazaka that the shear is no good. Umina yimshim halach letoch beito. V'hizgir, what happens? O shamad betoch habayit v'hizgir she's giru muzgar. How do we know it's true? Lechatchila, what should he do? Out of the house. Where should he make a declaration? Past the threshold. But what happens if he declares the bayit tameh while he's in the house? Or what happens if the Kohen goes home and says, "Oh, I forgot to say tameh, and he's sitting at home." B'diavad, the house is tameh. That's what he says, right? How do we know that even if he says it's no good in the house, it's still tameh? What happens if he gets home and he says it's Tameh? The house is still Tameh? Even though it should be denied after the threshold? How do we still know that it's no good? Talmud Lomar, v'hizgir et habayit mikol makom. Meaning, the Eved, not ideal, but as long as he closes that door, the house is Tameh. He did it while he was still inside the house. He did it while he was at home, it doesn't matter. The Gemara learns, mikol makom, meaning, as long as the Kohen. And by the way, for our purpose, the fact that he said it's Tameh inside the house doesn't really matter. What really matters is, he goes home. What do you mean? If he went home, when did he see the nega? Not 10 seconds ago. That's a very long. So the guy in the house, forget in the house, because then he can see the nega on the wall. But what about if the Kohen goes home? I don't care if he's his neighbor, right? The guy is saying Tameh. Maybe the size of the Tumah shrunk. The guy's home. That's 10 minutes. It's an hour. It doesn't matter. The fact that even the Eved can render the Tumah, even though he can't see it, maybe it shrunk, doesn't matter. Here we go. Here's the proof. That even if the Kohen is home and says it's Tameh, it's no good. Why? Chazaka.
How does the guy know it's Tameh then?
I saw it an hour ago, 2 hours ago, on the wall.
No, but if the Kohen goes home and says, "Oh, it's Tameh," didn't he already tell the guy it's not Tameh?
He didn't say anything. He never made a declaration.
Under review.
Under review.
So how's the guy become aware?
He was on his cell phone. He was about to say Tameh. His wife called him. He started talking to his wife. He walked all the way home. He's like, "Oh my goodness, I got to declare Tameh Yikra. It's Tameh." Guess what? He hasn't seen the tzaras in an hour.
But the person doesn't know the Kohen now said it's Tameh.
So he sends him a text message. Your house is Tameh.
We're assuming they didn't have.
Send him a telegraph.
Screen. It was his neighbor. It could have been his neighbor. I'm exaggerating that it's an hour while. It could be the house next door.
Send the pigeon.
Smoke signals. Actually, you see what the Gemara is going to say. What actually the
He's
case
playing
is
the
in
local
a second.
Kohen. Probably just walked over and told him it was not using.
Yeah.
Or he got home, said, "I'm declaring Tameh." Then he walked over to the guy afterwards. That's crazy. So the Kohen can go home say it's tamei, hasn't seen the nega in an hour, and the house is musgar. You haven't seen the nega in an hour. It doesn't matter. It's not ideal. You're supposed to say it right after you cross the threshold and close the door. And you only saw it 10 seconds before. But even an hour later, you declare tamei, the house is tamei. What do we see from here? There's a chazaka. Oh, you saw it an hour ago. Doesn't matter. Why should I assume that the nega shrunk? I saw it was an inch by an inch. It's tamei. Why I assume it shrunk? It's tamei. We have a chazaka. That's what you saw. That's what we established. Okay. Let's just do this. 2 lines left to Gemara. Ve'Ravacha bar Yaakov. What would you say? Listen to this. Kigun de kaime dara de gavre. That he says, what would you assume? No. Not sending a text message or a carrier pigeon like you guys said, but there were literally people 10 meters apart, lining up from the house to the Cohen's house. And what are they? They're reporting on the status of the nega. No good, no good, no good, no good, no good. Cohen says what? Tamei, 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 tamei. So don't tell me there's a chazaka of tuma. There's people that have been lining up this whole time with their eye on the nega. So don't tell me there's a chazaka that maybe didn't shrunk. We still have our eye on the prize all this way. And we've had people lining up the entire way.
Wait, they all have their eye on it?
They all have their eye on it.
That's...
Right? And what are they saying? And what are these people saying? Kidekai kai. They're sitting in line, and the Kohen hears them say, no good, no good, no good, the shear's 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 no good. Kohen, tamei. So don't tell me it was an hour later the Kohen got distracted, was on his cell phone. Rather, yes, the Kohen might have forgotten, but nonetheless, this entire link, there's eye on the Tuma, and the Tuma didn't change. No good, no good, no good. I mean, the Kohen saw was no good. It's still no good, still no good, still no good. And they're able to give updated information up to the minute. And therefore is making it, don't tell me for Ravacha bar Yaakov, this is not a source of chazaka. Why? Because I'm not assuming that it didn't shrink. I'm assuming that it's all, we still see that it's no good. And therefore, for Ravacha bar Yaakov, we don't have a source for chazaka. Whereas according to Rav Shmuel, this is the source for chazaka. And that's then the Gemara says, okay, that's the source for chazaka. Now we need a source for Rav. We don't hold we don't hold like Ravacha bar Yaakov. This is the source for chazaka. We don't make this ukimta, that there's people lined up the entire time. Not that you're surprised by that, right? And rather we say, yes, if the Kohen B'diavad walks out and an hour later he says, tamei, it's still tamei. Why? Because the chazaka did not shrink.
How come they don't attempt to prove chazaka from a svara or something?
So everyone asks, what's the source for Ravacha bar Yaakov? If you dismiss this, what's the source? Maybe Ravacha bar Yaakov would assume that maybe it is the svara. Okay, it's the...
Because without the law of chazaka, you can't really establish any grounds unless you're, it's not such a crazy thing to assume I was in here, I saw it was nega. I walk out 10 seconds later. I couldn't have seen it the whole time, but what can happen in 10 seconds?
But the question is it enough to establish tuma? Is it enough to establish anything?
Right, otherwise you could never establish tuma.
Right. And you wouldn't be able to establish anything in halacha. So the question is, is a svara? So why is that the Gemara wants to find a makor? The Gemara is not happy with the svara. The Gemara wants a psukim to prove it. Because I guess they don't want to establish tuma. They don't want to establish anything chazaka without a makor for it.
Well, but a svara is just as good as a makor.
Right. Right. But I'm saying they're not happy. They don't want. They're saying it's an assumption.
Good enough svara.
Or they wanted a makor. They felt that a svara is still questionable. It's a good question. Let me write the airport. Rabbi Shkoyach, Mr. Hashem, next week we're going to go over the sugi again. We're going to take a look at Tosfos. He's a bit of a different understanding of what's going on. We'll do that 1 week, and then only spend 1 week on going over the sugi again, and then I want to move to Rove.